And now, broadcasting live across the Galactic Confederation network, welcome to the 847th Annual Interstellar Strength Championships. The holographic announcer's voice boomed across the massive arena on Station Epsilon 9, his translucent form floating above the gathered crowds of various species. His name was K. Thor P. Tang, and he had been announcing these games for over 2 decades. Today, though, there was something different in his usually steady voice, a hint of barely contained excitement. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all designations, we have a special treat for you today. For the first time in the championship's history, we have a competitor from that mysterious Class 12 Deathworld known as Dramatic Pause Earth. The assembled crowd buzzed with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Many had heard tales of the newly discovered human stories that seemed too outlandish to be true. Their planet's gravity was supposedly crushing, their atmosphere corrosive, and their bodies filled with hostile microorganisms that would kill most species instantly. In the preparation chamber, Jessica Iron Maiden Chen rolled her shoulders and tried to ignore the way the other competitors were either backing away from her or staring with undisguised horror. At 6'A" and built like a classic strong woman, she cut an imposing figure even by human standards. To the various assembled aliens, she might as well have been a monster from their deepest nightmares. Drawled her assigned handler, a Zentarian named MX Rill, whose iridescent scales shimmered with nervous energy. It's not too late to withdraw. Nobody would think less of you. Jessica snorted. Withdraw? I just spent 6 months qualifying and another 3 months in quarantine just to get here. Besides, she grinned, showing teeth an expression that made several nearby aliens flinch. I didn't come all this way to quit before I even started. But the gravity settings, MX Rill protested. They're calibrated for standard competitors. At 0.8 G, you'll be at a severe disadvantage. Jessica's grin only widened. You mean I'll only have to lift at 80% of what I'm used to? Oh no, however will I manage? Before MX Rill could respond, the announcement system crackled to life again. Would all competitors please report to the main arena for the opening ceremony and first event? The competition area was a marvel of engineering, a massive circular platform suspended in a gravity-controlled field, surrounded by hovering camera drones and force field barriers to protect the spectators. The other competitors were already filing out, representing a dozen different species from across the galaxy. There was Galactic the Andromedian, whose crystalline body structure was renowned for its strength. 4X89, the cybernetically enhanced mechanoid, whose metallic frame gleamed under the arena lights. VX Lara the Neptunian, whose gelatinous form could compress and expand to generate tremendous force. All champions of their respective sectors. As Jessica stepped out, the crowd fell silent. Then, the whispers started. Is that really a Deathworlder? Look at the density of its musculature. I heard they eat other living creatures. Why isn't it wearing an atmosphere suit? K. Thor P. Tang's voice cut through the murmurs. Our first event today will be the standard gravity deadlift. Each competitor will attempt to lift an increasingly heavy mass from a resting position. The mass begins at 100 standard units and increases by 50 units each round. Last lifter standing wins. Jessica watched as the first few competitors took their turns. The Andromedian managed 250 units before his crystalline structure began to crack. The mechanoid pushed to 300 before his servos started smoking. The Neptunian surprised everyone by reaching 350 before losing cohesion. Then it was Jessica's turn. As she approached the lifting platform, she could hear the betting systems going wild in the background. The odds against her were astronomical after all. How could a primitive species from an unaligned world hope to compete with the galaxy's finest? Competitor Chen K. Thor announced, his voice carrying a note of concern, will start you at the minimum weight of 100 units, of course. Skip to 400, Jessica interrupted, causing a gasp to ripple through the arena. What K. Thor stammered, his holographic form flickering in confusion. 400 units. No point wasting time with the warm-up weights. The silence in the arena was absolute. Even the betting system seemed to pause in shock. MX Rill rushed forward, waving their appendages in distress. Jessica, please, that's suicide. No organic being has ever lifted that much in competition. Jessica just winked at her handler and took her position at the lifting platform. The weight was a simple design, a mass of ultra-dense material suspended in a gravity field. As requested, it was set to 400 units. She took a deep breath, set her stance, and gripped the handles. The entire arena held its breath. Jessica lifted. The weight came up smoothly, steadily, until she was standing fully upright with 400 units of mass held perfectly stable above her knees. She held it for the required 3 seconds, then set it down with careful precision. The silence lasted exactly 2 seconds before the arena erupted into chaos. Impossible, screamed several scientific observers. The gravity controls must be malfunctioning, shouted others. Cheating, roared the representatives of the losing competitors. Thor P. Tang's hologram was spinning in circles, his programming apparently unable to process what he'd just witnessed. That is, we'll need to verify. What in the name of the 7 spiral arms just happened? Jessica casually clapped her hands. That was fun. Shall we try 500? The next hour became the stuff of galactic legend. Jessica proceeded to break every strength record in the book, all while maintaining a running commentary that alternated between genuine amusement and playful sarcasm. At 600 units, oh come on, I lift more than this helping my grandma with her gardening. At 700 units now, this is starting to feel like a proper gym day. Anyone want to spot me? At 800 units, this would be a lot harder if you hadn't set the gravity so low. Thanks for that. The scientific observers had given up on screaming impossible and were now furiously taking notes, their various recording devices whirring at maximum capacity. The betting systems had crashed completely. Several competitors had fainted, though whether from shock or horror was unclear. It was at 900 units that things got really interesting. Competitor Chen Thor had finally regained some composure. Though his hologram still flickered occasionally, you do realize that this mass is equivalent to a small shuttlecraft. Jessica was doing warm-up stretches. Really? Cool. I've always wondered if I could lift a shuttle. This'll make for a great story at my next powerlifting meet back home. Next. Powerlifting meet MX Rill had given up on trying to stop Jessica and was now just following her around with a medical scanner, muttering about impossible bone density readings. You mean there are more of you who can do this? Oh sure, Jessica replied cheerfully. I'm not even close to the strongest back home. You should see my coach now. There's someone who could put up some real numbers. The revelation that there were even stronger humans out there caused another wave of fainting in the audience. As Jessica stepped up to attempt the 900-unit lift, a new voice cut through the chaos. Stop this madness. The voice belonged to Grand Administrator Photon, the highest-ranking official present. The ancient Celestial's bioluminescent form was pulsing with agitation as they floated down to the competition floor. This is clearly some form of trickery. No evolutionary path could possibly produce a being capable of such feats. We demand an immediate investigation into. They were cut off by Jessica successfully completing the 900-unit lift, holding it overhead this time just to show off. Investigation into what she asked innocently, while casually holding a mass equivalent to a small spacecraft. The fact that humans evolved on a world with 3 times the gravity of galactic standard? Or the fact that we had to become strong enough to survive regular natural disasters, mega predators, and our own stubborn determination to lift progressively heavier things for fun. She set the weight down with expert precision. Also, if you're really interested in investigating human capabilities, you might want to wait until next month, when my little sister competes in the Galactic Speed Trials. Now that's going to be entertaining. The Grand Administrator's bioluminescence went completely dark for a moment, then started flashing in patterns that the medical staff later described as concerning. There are more of you, coming to compete. Oh yeah, Jessica beamed. Once we found out about all these competitions, pretty much every human athlete wanted in. We've got entries in the endurance races, the combat sports, the acceleration challenges. Pretty much everything except the low-gravity ballet, because honestly we're kind of clumsy in 0G. The betting systems, which had just come back online, immediately crashed again. Thor P. Tang's hologram had given up on maintaining its usual dignified appearance and was now just a vaguely announcer-shaped blob of excited light. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all designations, I believe we are witnessing the beginning of a new era in galactic sports. Would competitor Chen like to attempt 1,000 units? Jessica was already chalking up her hands again. Would I ever? But first, quick question, these gravity controls, they can go higher than 0.8 G, right? Because I'd love to show you all what I can do at Earth normal gravity. The medical staff quickly vetoed that idea, citing concerns about structural damage to the station if anything greater than 1,000 units was attempted at higher gravity. Jessica accepted this with good grace, though she did mutter something about barely getting warmed up. As she prepared for her final lift of the day, the audience had recovered enough to start cheering. The initial fear had given way to awe, and even some of the other competitors were showing signs of cautious admiration. You know, MX Real commented, their scales now shimmering with amazement rather than anxiety. When they first announced that Earth was joining the Galactic Confederation, many thought it was a mistake to allow Deathworlders into civilized space. Jessica adjusted her lifting belt. And now I think the mistake was assuming we knew what civilized meant. Also, I've decided to become Earth's first Zentarian sports journalist. I have a feeling I'm going to be very busy covering human athletic events. The final lift was, of course, successful. As Jessica held the unprecedented 1,000 units overhead, K. Thor P. Tang's voice rang out one last time. And that, dear viewers across the galaxy, is why you should never underestimate a species that evolved on a world that actively tried to kill them. This is K. Thor P. Tang signing off before this human decides to try lifting the entire station. Jessica's laugh echoed through the arena. Now there's an idea. The medical staff quickly escorted her away before she could actually attempt it. Later in the station's recreational area, Jessica sat surrounded by curious aliens, all eager to learn about human athletic capabilities. She was in the middle of explaining the concept of just one more rep when her communicator buzzed with a message from Earth. It was from her coach. Saw the broadcast. Good warm-up session. Real training starts tomorrow. Jessica showed the message to her new alien friends who had just started to recover from their shock. They promptly fainted again. Just another day in the life of a human athlete in space. The aftermath of Jessica's record-breaking performance sent ripples through the Galactic Confederation that no one could have predicted. Within days, the video of her lifts had become the most watched content in Confederation history, surpassing even the famous quantum harmonics dance competition disaster of 2847, where an entire dance troupe accidentally phased through the floor. The Galactic Sports Commission held an emergency meeting that lasted 17 standard cycles. The main topic of debate whether to create a separate Deathworlder division for future competitions. The proposal was immediately shot down when someone pointed out that this might offend the humans, and nobody wanted to risk annoying a species that could casually lift small spacecraft. Meanwhile, Jessica had become something of a celebrity on Station Epsilon 9. The station's artificial gravity systems were constantly being adjusted as various species requested demonstrations at their native gravity levels. The Floatarians, who evolved in 0.2 G, nearly had a mass religious conversion when they saw her do a one-handed handstand while holding a conversation. But how demanded Professor Zilix, a renowned xenobiologist whose tentacles were tied in literal knots trying to understand human physiology. Your muscle fiber density alone violates 3 different theories of evolutionary development. Jessica, who was casually doing pull-ups on a support beam rated for docking capital ships, just shrugged. Wait till you see what happens when humans get really motivated. Ever heard of something called adrenaline? The professor's recording device exploded from trying to process the subsequent explanation of how humans could temporarily exceed their normal strength limits in emergency situations. The fact that humans called this hysterical strength and considered it a normal biological function caused several of his colleagues to need immediate meditation sessions. MX Rill, true to their word, had begun their career as Earth's first alien sports correspondent. Their first article, titled Deathworlders Among Us Why That's Actually Awesome, had gone viral across the galactic networks. They were currently following Jessica around with a hover cam, documenting her daily routine for a special report. And these protein shakes you consume, MX Rill asked, their scales shifting to a journalistic purple. They're not some form of performance enhancement. Jessica nearly choked on her post-workout smoothie. Enhancement? Nah, this is just processed plant and dairy protein. Basic nutrition. Though I should warn you, don't try human protein supplements, they're calibrated for our metabolism. Had a Martian try one once, and they were bouncing off the walls for a week straight. The station's gym had become a bizarre cultural exchange center. Aliens from across the Confederation came to watch Jessica train, leading to some interesting misunderstandings. What do you mean it's just a light session, wailed a Vergonian observer as Jessica casually repped out squats with what used to be the station's backup generator. You're lifting enough mass to power a small city. Well, yeah, Jessica explained between sets. Got to take it easy sometimes. Recovery is important. Besides, tomorrow's deadlift day, that's when the real fun starts. The station's engineering team had to requisition special reinforced flooring from a battleship manufacturer just to handle her deadlift sessions. But it wasn't until the arrival of Dr. Quantum, the Confederation's leading expert in comparative xenophysiology, that things got really interesting. The good doctor, whose body existed partially in 11 dimensions, had a theory. Your species, they announced, multi-dimensional appendages gesturing excitedly, evolved in what we're now classifying as a death spiral environment. A what now, Jessica asked, pausing in her attempt to teach a group of Andromedians proper bench press form. A planetary environment that continuously escalates in hostility, forcing its inhabitants to evolve ever-increasing capabilities just to survive. It's absolutely fascinating. The gravity, the atmospheric composition, the varieties of predators. The weather patterns, everything on Earth seems designed to create increasingly resilient life forms. Jessica considered this while casually holding a spotter position for a weight that could crush a small moon. That actually explains a lot about human history, like why we invented parkour. Dr. Quantum's expression somehow managed to convey confusion across multiple dimensions. Oh yeah, it's this thing where we run around jumping off buildings and doing flips for fun. I'm pretty mediocre at it, but my cousin could show you some cool moves. The doctor's recording devices all simultaneously shut down in protest. The real excitement, however, came when the station received an unexpected transmission from Earth. It was a video compilation of the various reactions to Jessica's performance from human athletes back home. The station's communications hub had to be evacuated when the alien staff saw humans watching the video and saying things like "nice form," but she was holding back and bet I could add another 100 units to that. The final straw came when Jessica's little sister arrived a week early for her speed trial preparation. The sight of two Deathworlders casually discussing their respective sports over meals that would feed a small alien city was too much for the station's probability calculators to handle. So Sarah Lightning Chen said, watching her sister deadlift what appeared to be a small shuttlecraft, "You really showed them the lightweight stuff first, huh?" Jessica grinned. "Well, you know what Coach always says, always leave room for improvement." MX Rill, who had been documenting everything, suddenly realized something terrifying. "Wait, you mean, there's more?" The Chen sisters exchanged a look that would have sent ancient predators running for cover. "Oh, MX Rill," Sarah said, her smile eerily similar to her sister's, "you haven't seen anything yet. Wait until the humans who practice extreme sports find out about these competitions." The resulting panic nearly crashed the station's AI systems. And somewhere back on Earth, in a gym that had been specifically reinforced to handle forces that would worry a small tectonic plate, an old coach watched the feed of his student's galactic debut and smiled. On the wall behind him hung a simple sign that read, "Earth where evolution got serious about gains." The galaxy would never be the same. And humanity? Well, they were just getting warmed up. After all, as Jessica liked to say in space, no one can hear you PR, but they can definitely see the weights move.